You know, I founded this channel on one very reoccurring concept for my content in the past. And ever since this last election, I've been so focused on covering the news, covering any information related to this administration, the previous administration, the election, and all the stuff that's happened in the aftermath. It's been, God, I want to say 2 straight years now where my focus has been on current events when it comes to gathering topics to cover here on the channel. And as much as I think that's important, I also think that we're kind of forgetting our roots a little bit, don't you think? And I also think that we're kind of forgetting what, in a way, originally made the left start to pull people over. And that was the fact that there were people out there willing to hunt down what were supposedly the best of the right's arguments and meticulously take them apart in video responses. And so today marks the day where we are bringing back Chud video responses big time. We've done a few over the last year or so, don't get me wrong. I've thrown a few in there, but we're really bringing it back now, and I figured what better to start with than a classic Nazi YouTube channel called Black Pigeon Speaks. Many of you guys might not be aware of this dude, but he got big back in 2016, or sorry, more like 2017, 2018, blew up over the course of the last few years, and is still running fairly strong at 500,000 subscribers, and he is a full-on Nazi, make no mistake, regular advocating for the Great Replacement conspiracy theory, that kind of stuff. He's, shameless about it. YouTube has seemingly shadow banned him. Like, if you Google his channel, none of his videos come up in any of the results, but his channel does. So, it seems YouTube knows this guy is sus and has half-banned him, but they haven't followed through on a full ban, so I guess they still want to, farm ad revenue off of him or something. I don't know what they're doing with this guy's channel, but regardless, Black Pigeon Speaks put out a video recently called Why, Quote-Unquote, Lesbians, implying that, lesbians aren't real, are disappearing. Why lesbians are disappearing. That's right, guys. Apparently, lesbians are going extinct. I don't know where he's getting this from. Apparently there's some data or census information I've not been made aware of. But apparently lesbians are disappearing, guys. Now, if there is any data that does seem to back up whatever claim he's making, I don't think it would support the idea that lesbians are disappearing, out of thin air, as if they were, I don't know, never real, and now that woke is dead or whatever, they're not pretending to be gay or whatever. But it seems more likely that in these last, 8 months, something's happened politically in America that has made, and Britain and much of the Western world as a whole, that's maybe made a lot of gay people, particularly the most likely progressive group of gay people, which would be gay women, that lesbians, a lot more likely to stay in the closet, scared that the worst case scenario could happen and they could be a victim. That might, that could possibly be worth considering as a reason why there could be a downtick in the amount of, open people, identifying as lesbians in the last few years. But I don't know. Let's see what his claim is. Let's find out what the deal with this video is. Let's see what it's all about. I have not watched it yet. No pre-watching. Let's get into it.
In the mid-2000s, I was a young student at university and was living in what I thought was the best neighborhood in the city, Vancouver. I could walk to the beach, park.
Is Vancouver a neighborhood? I thought Vancouver's like a whole, city. I don't know jack shit about Canada, so I'm genuine question. Yeah, Vancouver's a big fucking city, right? Yeah, when I hear Vancouver, it's like that place where 90% of Supernatural episodes are filmed. Yeah, I've seen a lot of TV shows and movies that are all filmed in Vancouver. There's no way it's a neighborhood, okay? There's no way. I've seen too many things filmed there. I'd recognize way too much stuff if that was the case. So it's a whole ass city. That makes sense. It would have to be. All right, continuing.
And it was dense, so there was no need for a car. And Vancouver at the time, and I'm not really sure about it now, but it wasn't like an American city. It was safe, and it was mostly European Canadians living in the center.
There you go. Yeah, this guy was one of the people who put in a lot of the work to popularize the idea that, like, Islamic rape gangs were strolling through Sweden, like, raping any white woman they found. So this guy has made it sort of his reoccurring gimmick that anytime he refers to American cities, he talks about them like it's some kind of, like, you know, the opening of Fallout New Vegas, where you get like the panning out view of the Vegas Strip and then through the wall, and you see like the NCR Rangers shoot the bandits in the street, and there's all the fires and all the, like, outside of the city is all like fucked up too, and it looks like that is how these chud types talk about American cities. It's like, oh wow, are you talking about New Vegas? Or oh, you're talking about Seattle. Well, surprisingly, there are not gangs of bandits in Seattle. It's not Mad Max, believe it or not.
Center. It was clean, it was nice, and it was leafy. It was a great place to live. It was also at the time the gayest
Wait, so the left is opposed to leaves now. Okay.
neighborhood in the country. Not so much since, given the proliferation of apps, but mostly now because people have been priced out of the place. But at the time, it was a nice place to live while I studied. But living there, I had and still have a lot of gay friends. So this is a lot in this video. There's a lot of problems.
Guys, he has gay friends. Keep that in mind. If anything he says from here on out sounds homophobic, blatantly so even, just remember, he's got gay friends. He just said so, and he'd never lie. No YouTuber has ever lied in order to cover for themselves from, like, preempted criticism. That's never happened before. No one would ever do that.
Probably anecdotal information to be had. And I really have not cared one way or the other where people put their junk. And during this era,
That's a really cool fucking building.
in the early 2000s, people didn't really make it the centerpiece of their identity. But times
And wait, midway through the 2000s, people didn't make being gay the centerpiece of their identity? Okay. Something spectacular that happened was the mass pretending by the chud grifters that politics began for real in 2020. And I realized something. They're doing the same thing they did in 2017 and 2018. They would talk about politics like everything got crazy before the last election, before 2016. Like, back before 2016, the left was reasonable. Now the left has gone crazy, and we got to keep the left in check. That's what all these right-wing grifters, many of the same people like Black Pigeon Speaks would say. Now, he's talking about the mid-2010s, you know, 2015, 2016, post-Gamergate era, as if back then people weren't, like, he's saying that people didn't make being gay a big part of their identity back then. That was their number one criticism of gay people back then. I was around back then when this guy was calling out gay people in the mid 2010s for how gay people make it too much about their identity, like that it's their whole personality or whatever. It's always been a bullshit statement, but now they're talking about a time where we know they've said this and they haven't had a contrary opinion. They're trying to pretend like they once believed something different and the left has just gone too far, but they've been around so long doing this grift, they're referring to a time where they were still doing this grift, where they supposedly didn't believe what they do now. I don't know. I might be hammering this point too hard, but it just mind boggles me that he's doing this, because this guy's been pulling the chud grift since 2015, if I remember right, and now he's pretending like he wasn't shit talking gay people for this exact same thing 10 years ago.
Times have changed. And now, with an infinite number of genders, many of my gay friends are not really now complying with the current narrative.
Oh, guys, his gay friends, they're the most fed up with this new, like, infinite gender woke Gen Z nonsense. That's right, guys. It's actually, the gay people are the most anti-LGBT, it turns out. Ask any gay person, they'll tell you, yeah, man, the gay community, they've just taken it too far.
as many would like to see the T dropped from the LGBTQ plus ABCDEFG.
Wow, I wonder what group politically the person who wrote "We LGBs need to divorce the TQI pluses" opinion piece came from. I wonder what political group or label that this person calls themselves. I wonder what famous author who has since gone fucking insane they follow and build their politics off of, likely because they're a fan of said author's work.
Arguing that sexual orientation, being lesbian, gay, or bisexual, is about who you are attracted to, while transgender issues are about gender dysphoria, a medical condition tied to identity, not attraction. Either
Yes, so the entire point of the LGBT community being like a whole umbrella thing is the idea that all of these groups fall outside of the normal, right? Go back 100 years ago, there was very little, if any, circumstances in which a gay person, period, had any acceptable ability to live in society as themselves and be like out and everything. It was dangerous, right? And things have changed for sure. Could have changed a lot more, to be honest, but things have changed. They've gotten better. But there are many other groups that, regardless of what your race is, regardless of where you come from, these people exist. Like, you can go to the most remote like villages in Africa and like that have never seen television or the internet, and you will find gay people. You can literally go to the plains of Africa and watch lions, giraffes, and zebras have gay sex, because gayness just happens. It's just a thing that happens in any population of complex living creature. And so there's always been gay people, and gay people have always been, in every society, besides a few, almost every society have been othered, sometimes in more extreme ways than others. And so when you consider that trans people have also been around for verified tens of thousands of years, I believe, at least according to historical records, and have also been historically just as, if not more, marginalized, along with all the other groups that fall under the LGBT label, including asexual, aromantic people who experience no sexual attraction, no romantic attraction, respectively, or if they're ace-aro, neither of those things. And so they lack attraction romantically or sexually, and yet they still are part of this group simply because to exist and be publicly open about what their identity is could be a dangerous thing. People might say, what the hell is being asexual? What are you talking about? Family members are going to be like, okay, but why don't we have grandkids yet? When are you getting through this phase? The idea that society does not see what you are as real or a valid thing, and people close to you that care about you might see you as lesser or some kind of creature or thing or fake trendy following phase addicted person, is really demoralizing for anybody. So like any group that wants to be seen and recognized, these parties overwhelmingly, going back decades and decades and decades and decades and decades ago, before either me, the person making this video, me, or most of you were ever born, all of these different groups got together and agreed to advocate for each other's rights together as a group. Because if you don't unite against the society that unanimously sees your identities as wrong because they're rare and unusual to them, and unusual and unknown means scary, then you need to unite against that society to protect each other and yourselves. If you divide and just try to say we're just going to advocate for ourselves, like gay people and bisexual people only advocate for gay and bisexual people, trans people only advocate for trans people, ace people only advocate for ace people, well, eventually they're going to come for the ace people and no one's going to speak for them. Then they're going to come for the trans people, no one's going to speak for them. All the TERFs that join the LGB movement are going to think they're safe, but then they're going to come for the LGB movement and no one's going to be around to speak for them. It's the classic unfolding of events. We all know the meme.
Either way, What we'll be focusing on in this video is the clear collapse, at least statistically, in what is the first bookend of the acronym, the L, or the Lesbians, and what this means
The
going
Lesbians?
forward. But before we do that, why not take a minute and help yourself, no matter the case, with something that will and can change your life for the better.
No. Grift time.
It's pretty self-evident to most that Big Pharma wants you hooked on pain pills.
Oh my, it's literally a supplement too. It's literally a supplement sponsor. Anyone who's seen the new South Park episode knows, like they literally made a whole episode of South Park joking about how, like, every right-wing grifter willing to push a narrative just gets, like, all these snake oil supplements, like, companies offering them shit tons of money. Grifters gotta grift.
But your pain. While the broad strokes would indicate that the youngest generation, Gen Z, is the least interested in propagating our species given their predilection toward heterosexual unions, what is quite interesting is that the lesbian label is all but collapsing, and the data backs that up. A University of Sydney study shows a steep drop in the SWASH survey. That being 69% of non-heterosexual women identified as lesbians in 2014, 51% in 2020, and the preliminary 2024 data puts it at just...
Now here's the question. Here's the doozy question, all right? Now put that drop in percentage of people publicly identifying as lesbian right next to the percentage of women identifying as bisexual. Because I have a feeling that a significant amount, if not all of the drop in women identifying as lesbian might now be represented by bisexual. I don't know why. Don't even ask me why, because I'm just going to pull an explanation out of my ass that's probably completely ignorant. But it does seem like women, cis women in particular, are more prone to bisexuality than cis men are. Like, there are plenty of bisexual cis men, don't get me wrong, but, like, it really does seem like being a bisexual woman, in some cases it seems like it's more common than women, like, cis women being straight. It's also socially less acceptable for men to be gay. So even if there is an equal representation on both sides, men are going to be more likely to stay in the closet about it, while women, nobody fucking boos when two women kiss. You know, like, if a woman is feeling like a little bit bisexual, you know, in their early life, there's very little social pressure now compared to men, my point being, compared to men, to stay in the closet. So it's very possible that it's literally just the fact that the bisexual men are staying in the closet more than bisexual women are these days. But I have a feeling that the idea of lesbian being the more popular identity, because, like, let's be real, go back 15 years ago, not 10, but like 15, 16 years ago, people knew about bisexuality, but the way people talked about it was more like it was some kind of phase, right? Like, even within the LGBT community, the way I always heard about it was like, you're either gay or you're straight, and people who are figuring out that they're gay might be bi-curious, which is always the term you'd hear, unless they would, like, start experimenting with homosexuality and eventually, if they're true to themselves, like, committing fully to it. The idea was that being bi was like a phase between coming out of the closet and being full out, right? And so that was a very incorrect understanding of bisexuality. I think we all know that now, but a very popular one, and, like, the overwhelmingly agreed upon definition for a long time, at least culturally, societally, open, like, widely, right? And so it really does seem like maybe it's just the fact that a lot of women, going back decades or even a century now, who assumed that their feelings for other women must mean they're a lesbian, and that any feelings they also feel for men must be some sort of residual hang-up over their socialization to be straight, that they convince themselves they're not bisexual. Bi-curiosity is just a transitionary liminal period between coming out and being openly gay, or being in the closet and being openly gay. It's like a coming out process, and not itself an identity that describes a sexuality that is completely separate from being gay, straight, or lesbian, or whatever, right? And so I think that's probably what a lot of it is. I think a lot of people who describe themselves as lesbians for a long time, probably straight, or probably not straight, or probably bisexual. And that's starting to be a realization a lot more, particularly women, are having. And there might be a lot of gay men that go through the same realization in the future too.
38%, and that is out of 1,436 respondents, and obviously this is a very big shift.
Well, 1,438 respondents is not a very big sample size. It's also an internet survey. We're not talking about like not even a Trump government poll here.
So again, in another 2019 survey of younger LGB folks, well, it showed that 45% of cisgender women, now cis, for those of you who are not aware, cis means women who identify as women. Yes, I understand it is confusing. They picked bisexual, 19% lesbian, 10% pansexual. And
there it is. I fucking knew it. I called it. I swear I didn't pre-watch. It's just all women are bisexual now. I don't know why, but it's happening. Every day, like, more women become bisexual. They wake up and now they're bisexual. It happens. Not a choice, but it just happens to them.
Another 2019 survey of younger LGB folks, well, it showed that 45% of cisgender women, now cis, for those of you who are not aware, cis means women who identify as women. Yes, I understand it is confusing. They picked...
Yes, it's so confusing. Yes.
Bisexual, 19%.
45% of women in this survey selected bisexual for their sexuality. If you believe that this 1,400 sample size poll is internet poll, mind you, is representative of all of society, then you'd have to agree that somewhere around 50% of cis women are bisexual. I'd believe it, to be honest. Also, this is this is a 4-year-old paper, by the way. This research paper, based on an internet poll, or an internet survey, is literally 4 years old. Thank you for pointing that out, Lucky Otter. I did not pick up on that until just now. We're really digging deep here now, huh?
Lesbian, 10% pansexual, and 7% queer, as it would seem that younger generations seem to lean toward terms that feel less rigid, less tied to the old idea of women loving only women.
Well, you know how crazy it is that there's not been a single argument made in this video yet? Like there's been no arguments against the validity of like lesbians or bisexual people or trans people. Like, he poked fun at the idea that it's confusing, that cis woman is confusing, which is just what they've always done. It's like, they can't make an actual argument unless it's like, I don't know, all gay people are predators or something. And, you know, they'll make up lies. But when they're just trying to make some slop content, they lack any actual arguments for how, like, for even why they are celebrating the downfall of gay people, I guess, right? They don't even substantiate why they think this way in their videos anymore. They just kind of presume you're going in agreeing already. Have you noticed that? Like, this video's made no attempt to argue why we should agree with its premise. Not like the premise that lesbians are disappearing, but the premise that lesbians are disappearing, and that's a good thing. And on top of that they had it coming. That the LGBT community is, like, receiving some kind of reckoning that it deserves. That's kind of like the essence of this video when you think about it.
So how do we square this circle? Well, online, many say that it's just women chasing trends, swapping labels like they're picking a new aesthetic. And there's obviously some truth there. Labels can be a way to signal you're part of what is the current acceptable narrative. And
why did he find, like, lesbians.mp4 to use here? Like, couldn't we have just kept rolling footage of, like, Vancouver or something.
Women, more so than men for at least evolutionary purposes, have come to be highly socially conformist creatures. I made a video on this about a decade ago that got millions of views and that people still reference and ask me about. Of course, YouTube took it.
Yeah, this was, if you don't know, Darth Yucko is his like hardcore Nazi account where he made the iconic video Why Women Destroy Nations and Civilizations and Other Uncomfortable Truths from Black Pigeon Speaks. Literally Clyde in the new South Park episode. Lesbians are evil and women should stay in the home and Jews are bad. Thank you, pay me now. Literally this guy, just straight up.
Down years and years ago, but it does get re-uploaded again.
Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
Again on that site as well as on others. But basically because of the social and evolutionary pressures men and women have developed, well, they've developed very different sets of survival instincts.
What? This guy is such a fucking gooner. Is this the guy who does the booby time section? Who remembers when, maybe it was the Quartering or No Bullshit who did, I think it was No Bullshit. There was a Chud Slop channel we would cover a lot years ago who would do a section of his videos that I used to call Booby Time, where for like the last 5 minutes of him like summarizing his point, it was just random stock footage of women with like low cut tops and like fat asses, like just on camera, like modeling and posing. And so my nickname for it became Booby Time. Like what is his deal here? Also, this girl looks like 17. I don't know how old she is, but what I want to point out is the fact that this is part of that weird chud obsession with redheads. Obviously, like, natural redheads are about as white as it gets, so it kind of makes sense when you think about it. But these chuds are obsessed with redheaded women to the point where they created a conspiracy theory, and they still tout this one, though it's quite old, that there is a great replacement of redhead women in media. That, like, say, for example, Mary Jane, MJ, in Spider-Man being cast as Zendaya, who is certainly not a ginger white woman, that is part of this agenda of redhead erasure. They also claim that the Witcher show, that their portrayal of Triss was redhead erasure. Ariel, yeah. And to be fair, like, there have been a coincidentally pretty high amount of cases where iconic, like, pale redheaded characters have been recast in some new iteration, specifically like played by a woman of color. That has been a bit coincidentally common over the last few years, don't get me wrong, but there's nothing wrong with it. You know, like you can notice that. Like, you can be a literal noticer and be like, huh, yeah, I noticed that. But there's this heavy implication that it's like, well, not even an implication, they outright claim it's part of an agenda to erase, like, redheaded women from media and to shame women or shame men for valuing white women at such a high standard as they do, I guess. I don't know where they're coming from with this, other than noticing a coincidental trend. But since the coincidental trend is definitely there and people have probably noticed it, you're able to make up a whole conspiracy about it, and people are like, finally, someone's figured out an explanation for this thing that I noticed. And that's how a lot of chuds get their conspiracies pushed.
Something along those lines. In addition, recent studies have shown that women's sexual behavior doesn't often match with their labels, which raises questions about how much these words really capture. Some argue women...
So what he's almost certainly misinterpreting here is the fact that many women in the past identified as lesbian, which would imply exclusively attracted to women, and yet statistically, those same people have reported that they also regularly engage in sexual, like, encounters with men and still find men attractive, which would imply to him, it seems, that women don't really find the label of lesbian all that concrete, that they'll call themselves that but not really be that. But the point here seems to be that, like, women become aware of their feelings for other women and in the past would just immediately assume that they're gay, that they're a lesbian, and call themselves that, even if they did act bisexually. Nowadays, bisexuality is much more recognized and understood as its own sexuality, as a thing that someone can be, not a transitory stage between gay and straight. And so now a lot more women are like, oh, yeah, okay, I guess I'm bi then. I'm sure we'll see a similar trend with men. If being called gay as a man ever stops being the most devastating insult you can possibly receive, it's literally the worst. Like if you get called more gay more than 3 times in a day as a man, you die, just straight instant death. Anyway,
are ditching lesbian because it's lost its edge. Being a lesbian used to feel like a middle finger to the system, but now
what?
queer and pan.
Okay, we're finally getting an actual sort of argument here. Now, how much of this do you want to bet is pulled out of his ass as an explanation for data he hardly understands? Because he has no, there's no conclusion to this data set that he's referencing here. So he's making his own conclusion here, is what I'm assuming.
Lesbian used to feel like a middle finger to the system, but now queer and pansexual might have more clout or feel safer in some spaces.
So he said that as if that was the conclusion of the study. That was not the conclusion of the study, I guarantee you, and I challenge him to provide me the study that posits that as its conclusion. He's making up an explanation. Now, what evidence do you have for that claim other than there are less women identifying as lesbian and more as bisexual now? Because I'd argue the explanation that a lot of these women that once identified as lesbian thought that it was either straight or lesbian, and so if they liked women, they must be a lesbian. But now bisexuality or pansexuality is far more recognized as its own thing. I feel like it's a more reasonable line of logic as to how we got to that data set than the idea that women are now identifying as bisexual for clout.
Others say it's...
Also, you want to know where women will not get clout for being bisexual or pansexual? Do you want to know where women will absolutely not get clout for that? Far from what one would ever describe as clout. Lesbian scenes of any kind. Among lesbians. I have dated bisexual women who have told me, yeah, lesbians fucking hate us. Maybe that's a bit of an extreme thing, but legitimately, there are a lot of lesbians who will be disgusted by you as a woman if you tell them you're bisexual, and that you have had or ever, in any frequency, do have sex with men. It's really bizarre, but trust me, if you know anything about this sphere, and I don't know that much because I am straight, but I know a bit, you'll know that there is no clout to be gained for being bisexual among lesbians, okay? They don't care for it. Famously, actually, they don't care for it.
Strategic, like women are dodging labels that feel too exposing or navigating scenes where newer identities dominate. There's also a darker edge, too. Some claim that women pick lesbian because of pure, unadulterated rage against men, perhaps because of bad experiences, only to go straight, therefore, further on in their lifetimes when the right man shows up.
There's no study that claims this once again. He's just pulling this explanation for the data out of his ass. This is actually a very clever, agenda-driven way to make videos. Notice, it was exactly... So we get a few minutes of, very reasonable intro to the video where he mentions having gay friends and stuff. Seems like a very, chill, maybe not even right-wing video at first when you're watching it. Then we get the supplement ad. We get the scam snake oil ad. And then he starts segueing slowly into his conclusion that lesbians are disappearing. And then at the halfway point, he just starts literally machine gunning us with nonsense explanations for it all that are all very clearly ideologically driven. So the first half of this video is nothing but fairly reasonable, fairly factual reporting, and a scam sponsor. And then almost at the exact halfway point, he starts pushing the ideology, the agenda. which ironically, I think only about 20%, 25% of his audience likely watches to this point to even know what his actual politics are, funnily enough. You know what? Let's read the comments on this video. Let's see how people responded to it. I think it's funny how most quote-unquote lesbian couples break up when the cute one gets pregnant. I don't think there is any data set that indicates that most lesbian couples break up that way. But like I said, we're talking about conservatives here. They're very good at just kind of... Something made them believe that was true. Like, that guy who commented that probably genuinely believes the majority of lesbian relationships end that way. Probably because once or twice he saw it happen. Probably not even with people he knew in real life. Probably like in a show or a movie or something. And now he's like, yeah, of course, most of their relationships end that way. This is horrible news for Subaru. I guess because lesbians like Subaru. Scissoring don't pay the bills. This might be the most brain rot comment section I've read in a while. A friend's a cop. The worst domestic violence calls were lesbians. Where will the female cops and firefighters come from? The FDA just approved a new drug called Tricoxagen. Women have always been easily impressionable. Trends exist because of women. There's no logic behind fashion or decorative trends. They're just personal taste dictated by television and social media. Ah, yes. Women are like children. You just gotta jingle around something shiny in front of them, and they're like cats. Women understand women. That's why they hate each other, quote unquote. That's why these relationships never last. So apparently at some point in this video, he claims that women understand women, and thus they hate each other. And in this video, and this commenter quotes it and then says, that's why lesbian relationships never last. This guy's clearly an incel and almost certainly does not know many women. But like, man, this content, it's pulling views. Don't get me wrong, it's pulling views. Zan, we got a Chud in chat? I saw. I dropped the ban hammer on him because it's clearly not someone that's down for any type of discussion. They just came in to spam Trump 2028. Anyway, folks. If you enjoyed this segment, if you found it enjoyable or educational in any way whatsoever, or entertaining, then please consider leaving a like and a comment down below. Only 10% of my viewers on average like my videos, and even less comment. And unfortunately, likes and comments are the #1 way to boost a channel in the algorithm, so with such a small percentage, I'm afraid there's not much of a chance of the channel growing much more. So if we can boost up that percentage, if you guys can raise that up, make it more than 10%, I would massively appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who ends up being a liker instead of a lurker. I appreciate it immensely. Thank you. And if you want to see more from me in the future, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications so YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload new videos in the future. And if you want to see more from me on other platforms as well, follow my social medias linked down below. Particularly join my fan Discord, as that is the main hub of my community and fan base. And on top of that, I host gaming events, call-in streams, watch parties, movie nights, all sorts of things there every week on Fridays. So if you don't want to miss it, join through the link down below. Don't forget. And if you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub to someone else on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xander Hall merch through the Streamlabs link down below. Regardless of how you support me, though, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a good one.